Bogata iračka naftna polja. Za mnoge je glavni razlog američkog nauma da zbaci s vlasti jednog od mnogih bliskoistočnih despota, svojega dugogodišnjeg saveznika Sadama Huseina. Ovako je 21. ožujka 2003. Amerika počela izvoziti demokraciju u Irak, tada dio ozloglašene osovine zla.
My fellow Americans, major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed.
Dvomjesečna invazija, za koju Bijela kuća i dalje tvrdi da je bila legitimna, nije imala potporu Rusije, Francuske, Njemačke, Kine i Egipta. Bushov glavni saveznik bio je Tony Blair. Polovina Britanaca danas misli kako njihova zemlja nije smjela ući u irački rat.
When we made the decision to go into Iraq, many intelligence agencies around the world judged that Saddam possessed weapons of mass destruction. This judgment was shared by the intelligence agencies of governments who did not support my decision to remove Saddam. And it is true that much of the intelligence turned out to be wrong.
الحكم على المدان صدام حسين المجيد بالإعدام شنقا حتى الموت لارتكاب قتل عمد كجريمة ضد الإنسانية وفق المادة 12 أولا أليف بدلالة المادة.
You can go back over all the issues to do with weapons of mass destruction and so on, but if you ask the basic question, is the world better off without Saddam than with them, then I think the answer is pretty clear, and that in the end is the judgment you've got to make.
Šiiti ovih dana pozivaju na zbacivanje autoritarnog premijera Al-Malikija, iako su dio njegove koalicije. Uzvikuju i slogane protiv mrske Amerike. Pogonsko gorivo za siromašne mase, čije srce i umove, usprkos htjenju Bushove administracije, američki vojnici nikada nisu osvojili. Upravo suprotno, završilo je mučenjima poput onih u Abu Ghraibу.
I think we can say that there is a very long legacy of torture and abuse in Iraq from the days of Saddam Hussein. What the foreign troops, the occupation powers did certainly is by using also torture and other treatment against detainees, they contributed further to this legacy, as now the new Iraqi authorities are doing.
Američka intervencija pretvorila se u pobunu Iračana protiv strane vojničke čizme, a zatim u sunitsko-šiitski građanski rat, koji su američki i britanski vojnici nemoćno promatrali. Suniti, koji čine petinu stanovništva, i dalje ispaštaju zato što su uživali povlašteni status tijekom Saddamove vladavine.
أنا حقيقة قدمت على هواي دوائر. وين بيتكم بالدورة؟ لا ما نحتاج. يعني من السؤال أنت تعرف الجواب. لكوني أنا من سكنة الدورة إذن أنا سني.
Feeling good. I'm happy. Woo!
Amerikanci su se na kraju uspjeli časno povući. Irak nije postao veliki bliskoistočni saveznik Amerike, kao što je vjerovao Bushov stožer. Upravo suprotno, danas je bliže Teheranu nego Vašingtonu. Unosne naftne ugovore u Iraku, naftna industrija uvelike je privatizirana, danas nemaju američke, već britanske, ruske i kineske tvrtke. U moru loših vijesti, poput one da je u prošle godine u Iraku poginuo 4471 civil i jedna dobra. Prvi put od američke invazije u Bagdadu ponovno trenira iračka nogometna reprezentacija. Odlazimo sada u Cambridge, u američkoj saveznoj državi Massachusetts. Ondje nas čeka profesor međunarodnih odnosa na sveučilištu Harvard, Stephen Walt. Mr. Walt, good evening and welcome to Horizons program.
Nice to be with you.
In your remarks about the anniversary of the U.S. invasion of Iraq, you have written that the first and most important lesson of Iraq war is that the Americans didn't win.
That's correct. The United States spent over $2 trillion on the war and did not get a political outcome that it should regard as a success. That is my definition of losing. We did not achieve the strategic results that we wanted.
Was it necessary to send more U.S. forces to secure the country? Do you think that the decision to disband the Iraqi army and launch an extensive de-Baathification process was a mistake?
There's no question that the decision to disband the Iraqi army was a mistake. It essentially removed the main institution that was supporting the prior government, and it left a situation of chaos that the United States could not manage. It would have required much larger number of American forces to secure Iraq and build a new state there. It would have required much more money and much more time. It would not have been worth it for the United States to do this.
It is remarkable how little serious debate there actually was about the decision to invade. Why was that so?
It was in part because after 9/11, Americans were very angry and were also very scared, and it was easy to fool them into thinking that Iraq had something to do with the attacks on the United States and that the United States had to take action. Also, the Bush administration did a very skillful job of misleading the American people about their interests and about how easy the war was going to be.
Bush has said that history will redeem him and compares himself to President Truman, who left office with low poll ratings because of the Korean War, yet is well regarded today. Will history really be so kind to Bush?
I don't believe it will, because President Truman had many other positive achievements while he was president, such as the building of NATO, the United Nations, the formation of the strategy of containment, and things like that. Bush had almost no positive accomplishments in foreign policy, and he was also president when the financial collapse hit, for which he will also be blamed. He is not going to look very good even 10 or 20 years from now.
The Iraq catastrophe that so disastrously undermined U.S. national security has not led to the sort of national soul-searching that one saw after Vietnam. Why?
I think there are many reasons for that. One is that so many people got it wrong that it is hard to sort of pin the blame on any one group. Lots of people were responsible, and none of them really wanted to take the blame for it. It also was less expensive because we have an all-volunteer force, and so many Americans, weren't drafted, didn't have to fight. The cost of the war really wasn't felt directly by most Americans. We know it was a mistake, but it hasn't been nearly as traumatic an experience as, say, the war in Vietnam was.
Iraq is now a violent place with a deadlocked political system, an authoritarian leader, huge sectarian violence, and with a corruption index ranking it 169th of 174 countries. Could we say that Iraq today is a failed state?
Well, we usually use the term failed state to refer to really extreme circumstances where the government has completely collapsed, such as in say, the Republic of the Congo or in Somalia a few years ago. And by that definition, Iraq is not a failed state. There is a government that is still working, although not working particularly well. However, you cannot argue that Iraq today is a particularly successful state or that the United States succeeded in achieving its war aims.
Was Washington's biggest mistake of recent years the one from the summer of 2010 when it backed Nouri al-Maliki, saying that only a Shiite Islamist had the credibility and legitimacy to serve as prime minister?
I don't think that was a huge mistake, but I don't think so because the United States did not have a lot of options at that point. By then, it was clear that the United States was going to leave Iraq, and we simply didn't have the ability to control internal Iraqi politics. At that point, we had to make the best of a bad situation and go with whoever seemed likely to be able to command some popular support, and that meant al-Maliki.
Could federalism promoted by the oil-wealthy Kurds in the north be a recipe for Iraq's defragmentation?
It could, and I think a lot of it will depend on how Iraq evolves economically in the years ahead. Many people believe that allowing a certain amount of federalism is necessary because the Kurds and also the Sunnis do not want to be tightly controlled by Baghdad. A loose federation might actually be a better way of governing Iraq than trying to control everything from the center. We're just going to have to see whether or not the central government is effective enough to hold the entire place together.
Many Shiite Iraqis anticipate that once successful in overthrowing the Alawite regime in Syria, radical Sunni groups will shift their focus to Iraq, renewing violent challenges to Baghdad. What is your assessment of that forecast?
I don't believe that is likely to be the case. There will be continued sectarian violence inside Iraq for quite some time, but I don't think there is an organized Sunni campaign to try and regain power in Iraq. It's being organized by the entire Sunni world. If there is, it's not going to succeed because the Sunni population in Iraq is not large enough to regain power.
Stephen Wall, thank you very much for being our guest.
Pleasure talking with you.